Hi. I've had so many good ideas. I probably could have saved the world 50 times over by now if the imposter syndrome hadn't gotten in the way. Oh, and have I mentioned I'm also prone to delusion? This is Hug Me, I'm Insane. My name is Perry Johnson. Welcome to this episode on the imposter syndrome. I'm delighted to be here. I'm delighted to be speaking with you all, even though technically I'm speaking to you all. But in my mind, I'm speaking with you all. And really, the only thing that matters is what's in my mind, isn't it? So, the imposter syndrome, oh man, that's a gooder, isn't it? It's a gooder. So as I've mentioned, I have had many good ideas. And I go around and I talk to people about the ideas I have to elicit their feedback. And more often than not, that feedback is good. I mean, every once in a while, people are like, what the hell are you going on about? That is insanity. Go eat a sandwich. But more often than not, if I really spend time on something and feel this force moving me in a certain direction, people, for the most part, are very encouraging. They think that this could actually be a very successful thing. And then I don't do the thing. And that has happened to me so many times. So many times. So some of you may relate to that. The imposter syndrome. It's that voice that comes up that tells us, who in the hell do you think you are? You have no business thinking that big. You will never be successful. People are never going to take you seriously. You are horribly underqualified to pull something like this off. Quit now. You're a freaking loser. And I have bought into that voice many times. And that makes me sad. It makes me sad on the one hand, and yet on the other hand, I've had so much experience with it. Here I am talking about it, so maybe I can turn around and help some people with it. I've come up with 5 ways to silence the inner critic when he rears his ugly head and gets in the way of me achieving something that I otherwise feel extremely passionate about. And by all intents and purposes, can move forward with and be successful with, and through talking to people who I trust, feel that it could be a worthwhile endeavor. And actually, recording these episodes and putting them out there, starting this channel, starting Hug Me, I'm Insane, was one of those things. And I can tell you without any hesitation that I have had the imposter syndrome crop up so many times since starting this thing. Pretty much every time I go to record an episode, the inner critic rears his ugly head. The resistance is so formidable that it takes a lot for me to break through it and not buy into it. And I think that one of the things that I come up against now that I'm thinking about it is that I am so used to buying into the inner critic, and that is a very well-worn path for me, where I go forward and convince myself that in the end, it's actually not a good idea. That's the conclusion that I come to. And then so I don't continue. And the thing stalls and falters and just dies a sad and lonely and silent death. And I don't want that to happen with Hug Me, I'm Insane. And so I'm putting it out there, for one thing, because I need to take ownership of that. And for another thing, I need to make myself accountable. And there's no better way of making myself accountable than talking about it here. So how do I walk the walk? Well, as I mentioned, I've come up with 5 things that I use to silence the inner critic. And they are as follows. Number 1, do the things anyway. Even as I sit down to do them, the inner critic is yelling and screaming at me that this is asinine and whatever. Sit down and do the damn things anyway. That's probably the most important one, and why I put it number 1. Because the only way at the end of the day to silence the inner critic is action. That's it. There is nothing else. I can't negotiate with him. He's always going to win. And even if I win and talk him out of it, and I'm like, no, actually, it's a good idea. I'm going to do it. I really think it's good. I'm going to go do it. He just patiently waits until I'm, overtired or feeling vulnerable or whatever. And so the only way through is to do the things. See the things through, one step at a time, one day at a time. Just take another step forward and do the things. If you're starting that business, write another page of the business proposal. If you're writing a book, write another couple of pages of the damn book. Even if you think the pages are shit, the fact that you're sitting down and banging out those pages means the next time you're faced with the inner critic, you'll have a little bit more momentum to help you sit down and do it again. And that's what I've been finding in recording these episodes, is that every time I sit down to do it, it takes away a little bit more of the inner critic's power. And that brings me to number 2. More things equals less critic. So as I experience the resistance coming up, and I continue to move through that resistance despite the inner critic, he slowly loses his power. He doesn't completely lose his power, and I never win the war, but every time I win a battle, it makes the next battle a little bit easier. Because the more I do, the more proof I have to myself that I'm going in the right direction, and the more proof that I have to myself that I can do the things. The more I do the damn things, the more I can do the damn things, and I don't buy into the damn critic. So number 2, more things equals less critic. And that brings us nicely to number 3. The world needs those things. I have this idea and this passion to execute the idea for a reason. The divine is speaking through me. I'm just a channel for the inspiration. The inspiration doesn't come from me. I'd love to be able to take credit for all my great ideas. And it's not that I feel that I'm a stupid person or anything like that, but I do have the humility, enough humility to admit that inspiration is a divine gift. And so by that measure, clearly this idea wants to be born. And more importantly, this idea wants to be executed. And so in many ways, if you think about how society has progressed and how we've gotten better, many of those ideas were at one point just an idea, and not even that. And at some point, somebody had to move through their own resistance and give birth to this new thing, this new paradigm, this new whatever it is, despite their inner critic, and made the world a better place as a result of that. That's why number 3 is the world needs those things, because we never know how the things that we do will affect others. My only job is to continue showing up and doing the things. That's it. The rest I leave up to the universe and to the divine, and I've got no idea how it's going to affect the world. I just do it and trust that at least one person will benefit. If one person benefits from what I do, then it's worth it. That's how I look at it. And so I continue to do the things just like other people continue to do their things. And I'm grateful that they continue to do their things, because we all reap the benefit of people moving through their resistance and doing their things. That's how we progress. I, for one, want to be part of the solution. Which brings me nicely to number 4. Number 4 is, I am not the only one experiencing the imposter syndrome. Everybody experiences the imposter syndrome. I am not an island. And if other people can move through that resistance and do the things, then I can move through the resistance and do the things. I'm just as capable as anybody else. And so I'm choosing to be like everybody else who has moved through the resistance and moved through the goddamn resistance. Because the fact of the matter is that buying into the inner critic leaves me feeling ashamed. It leaves me feeling worthless, like I have no follow through. It leaves me feeling lazy and like I have no drive. And I don't like feeling those things about myself. I want to feel good about myself. And I know that moving through resistance and getting to the other side achieves that thing that they call growth. And so, despite my not knowing whether or not anything that I'm doing is going to be for anybody else's benefit, what I do know is that showing up and continuing to do it makes me feel better about myself. I put number 4 down because I take a lot of comfort in knowing that I'm not the only one that's had to go through this, nor will I be the last one to go through this. People go through this stuff every day. We all have to move through resistance. I'm choosing to move through resistance. And so now I've landed at number 5 in terms of things that I do to silence the inner critic. And that is to poll my friends. It's to ask my friends about who I am and discover more things about myself. And the way that I do that, and I just did this recently, and it's an incredibly terrifying thing to do, but it is so worth it, is I ask them, what is my biggest asset and what is my biggest defect? Or to ask it a different way, what is the thing you admire most about me and what is the thing that you've observed is my biggest challenge? However you want to word it. And I can tell you it feels very strange asking that question. I've actually experienced a lot of resistance in doing that, where I get a similar thing. I get a voice that comes up saying, who in the hell do you think you are asking people this? Nobody wants to talk about you and your shit. I know exactly where that's coming from. That's another manifestation of the shame voice. But I've been really surprised at the answers that I've gotten. Not only are people willing to do that, but some commonalities about who I am have begun to emerge. And a couple of the things I've always suspected about myself, and a couple other things have been confirmed. For example, a couple of my friends have told me that one of my biggest defects is taking on other people's stuff. Or as one person put it, caring too much. And I know that I am prone to doing that because seeing people suffer can put me into rescuer mode or fixer mode, depending on how you want to term it. I will come galloping to the rescue and give you instructions on exactly how to extricate yourself from this treacherous situation, thereby improving your life and making me indispensable to you. There's been a big lesson in that for me, and that lesson is allowing. It's in allowing other people their journey and knowing that wherever that journey takes them, it's their journey and that they're going to be okay. And even if they don't end up okay, I'm going to be okay. And that at the end of the day, the only person that I can change is me. I've also had people tell me, a few people tell me that one of my greatest assets is my compassion. So it's very much a double-edged sword for me. I do care deeply about people and I'm very invested in what is authentic and true in all situations for myself and for others. But I know that not everybody is always ready to hear what is authentic and true. And I respect that because it was the same for me. So anyway, I'm going off on another tangent and I'm going to bring it back to the topic of this video and wrap it up by saying that if I had to come up with a takeaway, probably the biggest lesson that I've learned and continue to learn around dealing with the imposter syndrome is the need for action. It's the need for doing the things despite the voices. And when I see that action through, good things happen, including me talking to you now, which I'm going to stop. Okay? Yeah. Till the next time, toodles.